Last summer, I went solo on EF Ultimate Break's 35-day Ultimate Europe trip, and today I'm sitting down to give you a fully in-depth and unfiltered review on this entire trip from day 0 all the way to day 35. If this is the first time you're seeing me, what's up? My name is Vivian Hennekins. I make all kinds of fun travel content from all across the world, so make sure you subscribe down below so you can follow along. To help keep this review more organized, I went ahead and timestamped everything below. That way you can click around from topic to topic if you'd like. Now let's go ahead and start chatting about the trip. Like I said, this was a 35-day trip, and on this trip we got to visit 9 different countries. Let's see if I can think of all of them. Spain, France, the UK, the Netherlands, Germany, Czechia, Switzerland, Italy, and Greece. Now, the reason I personally chose to go on this trip was because I had just graduated college. I knew I really wanted to get out that summer and explore and see some of the world, but I knew I would also have to go alone because none of my friends could really travel with me. And my mom, being the very overprotective mother that she is, wouldn't let me actually go hop around Europe on my own like that. So after doing some research, I went ahead and settled on EF Ultimate Break. EF is the best way for anyone ages 18 to 35 to travel the world with ease. And it is the most stress-free way I have ever traveled. They plan literally everything: the itinerary, your transportation, your accommodations. All you have to do is sign up and show up ready to have a good time. And I guess now would be a good time to mention, if you guys are interested in booking any of EF's trips, you can book with the link down in the description below to get an extra $100 off on top of any sales they might be having. Alright, let's dive in with all the details on transportation. Obviously, to go to Europe, you're gonna have to take an overnight flight, and EF will schedule that flight for you, and you'll be able to see all of those details inside of your portal. Now, when you've made it to the airport, you'll be greeted by an EF representative who will help get you through the airport and take you to your accommodation. Now, in terms of transportation from getting to city, country to country, we pretty much just took our big giant tour bus the entire time. The bus was honestly pretty nice. The seats were comfortable, there was AC, we listened to music a lot, so no complaints there. So other than our tour bus taking us from place to place, we did take one ferry from the UK to the Netherlands, and that was an overnight ferry, and it was actually a really cool experience. The rooms were really nice, and the ship was also great. And now let's talk accommodation, because I feel like this is a topic that a lot of people always have questions about, and I think it's because people are worried about getting stuck up in like a really spooky, scary hostel situation, but we really didn't have any big issues like that. I will say yes, pretty much every place that we stayed in was a hostel. There were a couple exceptions where we did stay in a nice hotel or two, and that was always a fun little bonus. But the hostels themselves were fine. They totally served their purpose. And I mean, it's not even like you're really in your room that much anyways. You're gonna be out all day and all night exploring, so you're really only there to sleep and get ready, which they perfectly serve their purpose for. I'd say in each room there was between 2 to 6 people depending on how big the room was, and everyone that was in the room with us were all fellow EF travelers. There weren't any other strangers that were in the room with us, and everyone that was on the EF trip with me was all super respectful of our stuff, so we didn't have any issues with things getting lost or mixed up or anything like that. Also, at our accommodation, we always had breakfast provided for us. There were a couple times when we had to leave really early in the morning to head out on the bus, and in that case, they provided us little breakfast boxes, so we never went hungry. Also, the Wi-Fi at the hotels were pretty good. I would say I had pretty good luck with the Wi-Fi. I know a couple people had issues every now and then, but for the most part, everyone's Wi-Fi seemed to be working at each of the accommodations we went to. Moving on, let's talk about our tour director and our local guides. So your tour director is the person that will be with you for the entire duration of the trip, and the local tour guide will meet up with you in different cities to take you guys around on different sightseeing walks. Now, you're gonna get to know your tour director really well. They're basically like the mom or dad that's parenting and running the entire show. I personally loved our tour director. His name was Marios, and he was just the sweetest human being ever. Marios really went out of his way to plan so many extra activities for us. I'm talking before we had even left the US, he had already sent us a draft of an itinerary with a ton of extra optional activities added. And I will say pretty much everyone in the group did most of these activities, and they were a ton of fun. And I mean, that's what your tour director is there for. They're the pro, they know the best spots to go. So if you ever need anything to do on your trip, definitely ask your tour director. Now, when it came to the local guides, some were hits and some were misses. We liked some better than others, but Overall, I was really happy that we had the local guides, because without the local guides, we literally would have just been walking around the street like not knowing anything we were looking at. So it was really nice to have them there with us so they could tell us the stories and the histories behind everything we were seeing. Everyone always asked me how I was able to survive 35 days with a group of complete strangers. And if I'm gonna be honest, I would do it all over again. Choosing to go solo on this trip was such an amazing decision, and I will say I was really happy when I got there and showed up and saw that like 75% of our group also consisted of solo travelers, so you are never going to be alone. On average, EF says like 60% of their travelers go solo, so trust me, you have nothing to worry about. Our group was a really good mix of all different kinds of people. I will say our group was mostly girls. I think we had like 4 or 5 guys in the group, but it was mostly a girls trip for sure. I did actually connect really close to somebody on this trip. Her name is Kennedy. Shout out if you're watching. The first day we all showed up, me and her just kind of clicked, and then for the entire trip we were like literally glued at the hip. And funny story, now she's actually moved out to California and we hang out all the time. So I guess that just goes to say that a stranger is just a friend you haven't met yet. Everyone in our group also got along pretty well. There was a little bit of like silly drama towards the end of the trip, but I think that's just because we had all been with each other for so long. We were, you know, kind of starting to get tired of each other. But other than those couple little tidbits, everything went great, and by the end of it, our tour director Marios was calling us his big Greek family, and truly that is what it felt like. It really did feel like one big giant family at the end of the trip. Next up, let's talk about the itinerary, activities, and free time. The base itinerary that EF has is really good in my opinion. It takes you to all of the main highlights while also giving you a really good amount of free time. And one thing that I did really like is if you didn't want to do what the planned EF activity was, you didn't have to go. You could just go off and do your own thing instead. So you're really not tied down to anything at all. EF also does offer 6 optional excursions that you can pay to add on to your trip. I personally did all 6 of them, and so did a majority of the group, and I'm really happy that I did. What I really liked about the optional excursions that EF picked is they're things that would be a lot more challenging to figure out and coordinate on your own. So it's really nice that they just went ahead, planned it for you, and just have it there as an option. A lot of people are also curious how the whole group is going to be communicating during the trip, and basically what will happen is when you sign up for the EF trip, you'll get added into a group chat that takes place on the EF app. But then as your trip gets closer, your tour director will likely put you all into a WhatsApp group or like a GroupMe. And then one thing I really love that our tour director did is every day he would send out the full itinerary with all of the details, the times, the addresses for everything. It was really easy to just pull up your phone and see when and where the next activity was. Next, let's talk about safety. I will say I did feel completely safe the entire time, the whole 35 days of this trip. I never once felt like I was unsafe or in a bad area or anything like that. But you do have to remember, I also did my research, was very aware of my surroundings the whole time. Like, there are steps and precautions that you need to take to make sure that you and your belongings stay safe. For example, when you're in crowded areas or on public transportation, never leave your backpack on your back. Pull it around and wear it on your front. If you're sitting down to eat out at a restaurant, don't just leave your phone sitting smack on the center of the table. Someone could really easily walk by and take it. If you are a female walking completely alone, don't walk alone intoxicated, and don't walk alone after dark. And I feel like I could just go on and on, but all of these little precautions that you take are gonna keep you safe, and it will help to avoid any little wrinkles that could happen in your trip. Overall, big picture, is the 35-day ultimate Europe trip with EF Ultimate Break worth the money? I would say if this is one of your first times doing international travel and you're looking to kind of just get a little taste of everything, to kind of figure out what countries you like, then this is the perfect trip for you. When you sit down and really think about it, trying to plan this long of a trip all on your own would be very challenging, but also I'm sure much more expensive. So I regret absolutely nothing from this trip. I had the most incredible time. And I will say one thing that was actually really unexpected that came from this trip was all of the personal growth that I had within myself. When I graduated college, I was still kind of in the thick of dealing with all of my anxiety, so that played a big factor into the trip. I did a lot of mental preparation and all of that with my therapist, but really showing up, I honestly had nothing to worry about. Everything went so great. It was so much fun just navigating all these new cities, figuring out all the little details. It really helped to grow my confidence with myself. I feel like I'm able to take on more stressful challenges now without letting the anxiety get to me as much. If you still have any unanswered questions about this trip, go ahead and drop them in the comments below because I would love to help you out. And don't forget, you can get $100 off on your first trip with EF by booking down in the description below. If you're interested in watching a day-by-day breakdown in each country, you can watch the entire playlist over here. Please give this video a thumbs up if you thought it was helpful and subscribe down below so you don't miss out on my next adventure. Thanks for watching!